Hi, Ron Singer. Ron Singer of The Management Tree, late 80s on Sunset Boulevard. Remember Ron Singer of The Management Tree? Theatrical personal manager. Works in tandem usually with agents, of course, as you know. How you doing? How you doing? Are you dead yet? Oh. So, how's life been for you since, since I was your client, remember? The one that you picked up like a trick after a performance of a play that I did that was wildly, ridiculously, hilariously funny on at the Flight Theater on Santa Monica Boulevard in 1987. Yeah, right before I got married, actually. Yeah. So I was full tilt, I guess you'd promised me a whole mess of stuff. Uh, you know, when you pulled me aside after performing all night and you gave me your phone number and you were so convincing, almost romantic about it. Nothing new to me in that department. So yeah, I took your card and I called you and we started working together. Remember that? Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. In fact, I think more than one person remembers. Actually, your client, former client, at that time client, by the name of John Zarkin, who was a fairly well-known or popular, in demand perhaps at the time on some levels, actor. Same age as me. May have been one of those ones that were a bit older, but could easily pass for what I was passing for, 16. So boyish looking, in 87, right? Still had that boyish face, as you used to remark all the time. How cute I was, how adorable I was, how marketable I was. Like a commodity, right? Yeah. So, we hooked up. Made an appointment. And you started handling me after that fated evening with your business card after a long performance with an actress I actually was seeing. Believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, or at least in your mind, I don't actually remember that you got me even one audition. I remember that you tried to work in tandem with the representation that I already had long-standing relationships with. But then there was that business card and all those promises and that meeting in your office when I started being your client. I guess that's what it would be, your client. But John Zarkin, I actually worked with John on a film called For Keeps, which I spoke about day before yesterday. Blonde guy, cute guy. Yeah, you'll remember him. You know the funny thing about John Zarkin? That we never acknowledged when we filmed together in Canada and Los Angeles. Never acknowledged our previous conversation that we both knew we had had. The whole time we shot For Keeps. But I remember, because that was the last film I did, and that was well after all of these nightmares. Not just you, plenty of nightmares, which I'll try to touch on before I get on out of here, no, actually not until I'm through with you. So yeah, John came up to me since we were contemporaries and had seen each other perhaps maybe on one other audition, enough to recognize each other's faces. What often happened, as you know, at that time, Ron, is that of course we had to sign those call-in sheets when we arrived at every audition. Old school pencils, as you know, those papers. And you get to see all of your competition on that sheet. What actors have been there so far? Who are they? What have they done? What do I know of them? Do I know them? John being one of them, one of those callback, maybe once or twice kind of face recognizing scenarios. But this scenario, while I was still your client full tilt, I believe John may have still been your client, sort of, kind of, at that point. Actually, I think, yeah, you did represent him, if I'm not mistaken, at that time. So John comes up to me at this callback, and he tells me, and I'm paraphrasing, John, please. I'm paraphrasing. I know it's not word for word verbatim. I know that. So John comes up to me across the room, the waiting room, and he says to me, Sean, something weird. I saw that you're with Ron Singer. This was before For Keeps. This is sort of like the nuanced kind of communiques that we transmit to each other when we're all waiting in the same room to get the same job. And he said, you know, weird, you know, it's odd, you know. Ron wants to wrestle with me. Now, he didn't say in the buff. Doesn't actually have to be in the buff for that kind of proclivity, but he did say that you wanted to wrestle with him, and that he found that at the very least odd, and he had an alarmed look in his face, and hopefully he quit because he was so spooked, because I didn't hold back when I talked to John Zarkin. So if John Zarkin left you shortly thereafter, it was because of me acknowledging your cringiness, much as I hate that word, your creepiness. So, Ron, as you'll recall, when I was clinging to a career that was doomed for obvious reasons, as we both know, when you tried to, well, you know, kind of inferred that I'd be outed, you know, unless I kind of, you know, cooperated, like with, you know, trying to cut my agency out of a deal at the last minute so I wouldn't have to pay them commission on that film. Yeah, I remember that too. But anyway, so, you know, all kinds of interesting things. And then I get married, right? Or I'm engaged. And I tell you, we have to meet in your office on Sunset Boulevard in Doheny. And I tell you, you know, I'm brimming. I tell you I'm gonna get married. And you swing around in your chair and you glare at me for perhaps, I don't know, whatever reasons you had or feelings you had for me. And in that glare, you said to me, "Oh, really?" You said, "What's his name?" I was barely drinking age when you said that. And I have never, ever forgotten your cruelty. And I remember the people that you used to brag that you hung out with. I remember those people. I remember the ones that you worked with. And I remember your clients. And my book is not revenge. It's a resurrection. It's a seance. Brace yourself.